This is the way we handle black people.
The dark truth America tried to bury. In 1985, Philadelphia police dropped a bomb on a rowhouse in the heart of a black neighborhood, killing 11 people, including 5 black children, and burning 61 homes to the ground. This is the hidden story of the Move bombing massacre, a blueprint for how power silences black resistance with fire and buries victims beneath lies and ashes. Viewer discretion is strongly advised.
Nobody can call them weird, odd, urban guerrillas, cultish. They aren't odd, they're little kids, and they were burned to death.
No matter what anyone thinks about the adults, and what anyone says whether or not those adults contributed to the deaths of those children, the fact of the matter is that the deaths of those 5 children is inexcusable, intolerable, and should not have occurred in a civilized society.
At that time, witnesses heard gunshots coming from the back alley.
Some shooting started. Could you hear shooting? What did it sound like?
It was like that.
Police gunfire forced Move to stay in the house.
That's when we started yelling at kids coming out, and then they opened the garage door.
I know they heard us. I know they heard us.
We were saying, we want to come out.
And what did the other children do? Did they do the same thing?
Yeah.
Were any of the children crying?
Yeah, we all was.
Before dawn, a special unit of police positioned themselves to serve warrants on Move members.
The police at our door, they're saying, get out, you have to evacuate. We're going to have a police action here on your block. Just take a change of clothes. We're going to protect your belongings. You'll be back in 24 hours. If you don't leave, you're going to be arrested. I mean, we had a community of all kinds of people that we all supported each other. We all intermingled. We shared our thoughts, our concerns, and we just had a good time with each other because each one of us was trying to have something. You know, when I say have something, I mean, you know, we wanted to raise our standard of living. In 1978, there was a confrontation between the Move organization and the city of Philadelphia. Some of the Move people were arrested and sent to jail. Their children had nowhere to go. Miss Louise James, whose brother founded Move, allowed those children to come and live in her home so that they could be cared for. We respected that about Miss James.
The kids were like little animals. They just threw something on them as far as clothes, because I've given them clothes. As far as food, at one time they were eating under the garbage cans. So what the neighbors did, they took their garbage cans in, they bought new garbage cans, and they put bread in them. So the kids would go in the garbage cans, they would have bread. You know, they could eat bread, and then we got found out, and the parents were furious, you know. It really wasn't very militant at first, you know. It's just a lot of what we considered kind of strange-looking people with the locks, and, you know, it wasn't orthodox. And then it gradually began to change, you know, and that's when the trouble started.
Me and the wife heard all this banging. We couldn't understand what it was, and they began to board the front of the house. From that day on, it was like night and day.
The first big problem we had was the raw meat that they kept outside. It was a big, you could imagine a big tin of raw, bloody meat sitting outside of your house.
The loudspeakers went up in the spring of '84.
All of a sudden, they became very combative. They became very militant. They became dangerous, actually.
You could not imagine. It's one thing to be 2 blocks away and hear it, but to live right next door, full blast in our bedroom.
Then we had to contend with things inside our house, you know, bugs that you couldn't do anything about them. I mean, they just totally, the bugs took over our house, you know. My children woke up in the middle of the night from bug bites, crying from things biting them in their beds.
And they would threaten to kill people. And they would name people by name. And my family was named as part of those people that they threatened to kill.
We had tried all the other methods, exterminating methods, called people in, and we decided to put sulfur bombs down. Actually leave the house for a day and put sulfur bombs down. Being a good neighbor, I wanted to move people. I spoke to Conrad first about it. He went completely berserk. You know, the bugs are our brothers and sisters. If you exterminate the bugs, you exterminate us. But they told me if I set those bombs off, that when the revolution started, our doors would be the first ones would be kicked in, and in some kind of way our family would be first to go.
I remember we had a picture window. I saw the book fly across the book fly across the window, and my husband was flying across the window, and you know, he was physically attacked by, you know, by these people having a philosophical conversation. It was not uncommon that fights broke out, and you know, one time guns were pulled and my kids were down the street. It was very scary. I didn't know where my kids were. I couldn't go out of the house. It was like living in a war zone. It was horrible. They wanted to make social change, but their methods were destructive. And so it ended up having a destructive result.
How will this have to end for you to feel safe?
For them to be incarcerated, or I don't want to see anyone hurt or killed, but better them than me. They came in our neighborhood. We want them out. And I feel that whatever has to be done, has to be done. Whatever means are necessary. And that's what I want.
I could actually see my house being blown up.
Everybody was just, it was like a torture to watching our life just burn down to the ground. I mean, baby pictures, family members' pictures, everything destroyed. Mementos of our youth destroyed. Everything was gone. I mean, even though they told us they didn't protect anything, they burned everything to the ground.
As these scenes unfold, remember, Philadelphia did not invent this horror. It polished an old American habit of bombing black hope to dust. Years before, Birmingham, Alabama, suffered so many racist bombings that the city earned the name Bombingham. In 1963, 19 sticks of dynamite blew apart the 16th Street Baptist Church, killing 4 little black girls as they prepared for Sunday school. Black pastors' homes were bombed at night, warnings to stay silent. And for black men like Wallace Jackson, even earning a better paycheck could mean death. In 1967, Jackson was promoted at the Armstrong Tire and Rubber Company in Natchez, Mississippi, taking a position white men claimed as theirs. Not long after, a car bomb planted under his truck exploded as he drove home to his family. From Alabama's dynamite to Philadelphia's helicopter bomb, this nation has always kept a fuse ready when black people rise too far, too fast.
In May 1985, the city's police department dropped an improvised bomb on a residential home that housed the Black revolutionary organization called MOVE. The bomb and the ensuing fire killed 11 members of the group, including 5 children, and destroyed more than 60 nearby homes. Ali Rogan reports on why so many are still coming to grips with what happened.
MOVE is a totally revolutionary organization.
The complicated story of MOVE begins in the early 1970s. The organization followed the teachings of their founder, John Africa, who advocated a lifestyle rooted in nature. All members took Africa's last name and lived communally in West Philadelphia.
We must fight back!
They were known for staging disruptive demonstrations and frequently clashing with authorities, protesting everything from police brutality and war to pet stores and zoos.
MOVE is and was an organization that's very much committed to life in all of its forms and whatever that looks like.
Tommy Oliver is the director of 40 Years a Prisoner, a 2020 HBO documentary that traces the group's origins.
They're committed to eating naturally, to living naturally, to not being reliant on technology.
We walked around naked a lot. As children, the organization did not. They believed in vitamin D from the sun. They believed in allowing your skin to be tougher and stronger.
Mike Africa Jr.'s parents were both members of MOVE.
Yes, it was unorthodox, and yeah, some things were strange to some people, but for me, that was life.
That way of life often put MOVE at odds with local police and their neighbors, who accused them of creating unsanitary living conditions.
Them trying to live in the way that they wanted to live didn't sit well with a lot of people. So sometimes the neighbors, sometimes the city, and it escalated pretty significantly, pretty quickly.
In 1978, more than a year after the city issued an eviction notice, Philadelphia's then mayor, Frank Rizzo, ordered an attack on MOVE's home.
They're going to go either easy or hard way. That can be standing up or laying down.
The months-long standoff culminated in a shootout. One police officer was killed and MOVE's home was demolished. While MOVE maintains that the officer died by friendly fire, 9 of its members were convicted and sentenced to up to 100 years in prison, including Mike Africa Jr.'s parents.
The mayor admitted that he believed my parents were innocent. He believed that my parents were not in prison for the charge that they were charged with.
Police are inside MOVE headquarters in West Philadelphia conducting an intensive search for weapons.
He says the media's portrayal of MOVE was often exaggerated, and he says the organization was misunderstood even among many African Americans.
MOVE members are not the turn the other cheek type people, and a lot of people felt like pacifism was the answer, and MOVE members were not pacifistic. If a cop attacked them, they would fight back.
Tommy Oliver says those early confrontations, including that 1978 shootout, are critical to understanding what eventually happened 7 years later.
You had officers and members of the police force who wanted revenge.
In May of 1985, Philadelphia Mayor Wilson Goode ordered the organization to be removed once again from a home where they were living.
What we have out there is war.
And on May 13th, local news stations like WCAU in Philadelphia covered the escalating crisis throughout the day. Police would fire more than 10,000 rounds of ammunition into MOVE's rowhouse before eventually dropping a bomb on it. The city's police commissioner at the time, Gregory Sambor, defended his officers that evening.
At no time did any police position fire in an offensive posture. It was purely in a defensive posture.
11 MOVE members, including 5 children, were killed. While no city officials were criminally charged, a Philadelphia investigative commission later concluded that police actions were clearly excessive and, quote, unconscionable.
I don't think I'll ever recover or heal from what happened.
Mike Africa Jr., who was 6 at the time of the bombing, is now working as the legacy director of MOVE. He's reunited with his parents, who were released from prison in 2018 but remain on parole.
I've never heard of another case where a government has dropped a bomb on citizens in America. This is not something that you can repair back to normal. You have to find other ways to cope. And that's what I've been doing for the last 40 years.
In 2020, Philadelphia's City Council formally apologized for what happened, as has former Mayor Wilson Goode. But Africa Jr. says 4 decades later, he'd like the city to create a permanent memorial to commemorate all that was lost that day.
In your opinion, why do you feel that so few Americans know about the events that took place 40 years ago?
I think the city of Philadelphia does a really good job of limiting the amount of exposure to what happened. I also think that MOVE history is a very controversial history that brings up a lot of trauma for a lot of people. Black people were killed by law enforcement. And, you know, if you saw what happened to George Floyd, and at a certain point, you're tired of hearing about the people that were getting killed by these police officers.
But that doesn't stop Mike Africa Jr. from his mission of making sure the history of MOVE and the tragic event that claimed 11 lives isn't forgotten.
When the flames finally died, the betrayal was not over. Investigations revealed that the charred remains of Patricia Dotson, and possibly other children, were secretly kept for decades, handled by researchers, and displayed in a university museum without her family's consent. A child's bones turned into an exhibit, hidden from the people who loved her most. The fight did not end with the last flame on Osage Avenue. Mike Africa Jr. carries forward the struggle his family paid for in fire and silence, refusing to let the truth rot behind locked doors. The name Patricia Dotson stands as a reminder that even the youngest victims can be stripped of dignity when power fears accountability. Ramona Africa, the final adult to escape that burning house, lives with memories that no apology can heal. This is not only Philadelphia's burden, it is Tulsa's, Birmingham's, and every black community bombed or burned for daring to stand tall. These scars have been hidden behind silence and sealed files for generations. Memory keeps them open, and no bomb will ever bury them again.
Can't really get justice. There's too much has been done. Too much has been taken away. You can't bring people's families back. You can't. They murder people. The government dropped bombs. They kill people. And you can't change that. You know. And justice, putting the people that did it in prison would not be justice. Right. There's nothing you can do to bring about justice. Just like there's nothing they can do to make things equal. Right. You know, they gotta get out the way. Just leave us alone and get out the way.